Good day, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Well, since I seem to be on a Fatboy kick as of late, I thought that I would do a video on a subject that I have wanted to do for a while, but just never got around to doing it, and that is the Fatboy from one of the best sequels ever made, Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Now, anyone who has been following this channel since around its inception will know that this was the bike that got me into motorcycles. So much so that after my dad bought my first motorcycle, a Suzuki from the 60s, I spray painted that blue bike black to match the Fatboy in the movie. The movie itself came out in 1991 when I was 13 years old. And after seeing the bike in the trailer on TV, I knew I had to see this movie. I even went as far as buying the novel before seeing the movie just to find out what kind of motorcycle Arnold was riding. Now, you have to remember that these were the days pre-internet. If you wanted information on something, you needed to either get a book or know someone who could tell you the information. So, as I said, the movie came out in 1991. 1 year after the original Fatboy was introduced. I could not seem to find any information on exactly why Harley-Davidson or the movie production specifically used the Fatboy for this movie. But if I had to guess, it would be the fact that it was Harley's newest model and its beefy, stripped-down mechanical styling would go well with the story of it being ridden by a cyborg from the future. The bike itself was not that much different from the 1990 model the year previous, other than it was black and not gray, and the company did away with the yellow accents that were throughout the bike previously. The other add-ons on this bike were the highway pegs mounted on the down tubes, which John Connor used when on the bike during the chase scene through the spillway, and the mounted saddlebags. Now, if these bags were anything like the ones that I had on my 2002 Fatboy, they were bolted directly to the rear fender struts and were not removable. I actually remember them being a real bitch to install as well. I also suppose there was a holster for Arnold's sawed-off shotgun, but let's face it, that was not something Harley was offering for the bike at the time. Also of note is that a couple of the bikes had larger carbs and better pipes installed, so to sound and operate more responsively during the chase scenes. Now, as I said earlier, this was a black bike and was accentuated by red and orange pinstriping. Now, although this is not an overly exciting paint theme, I had this same one on a 1995 Fatboy that I owned, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it looked great, even though it was just pretty much straight black. The engine also was somewhat unchanged from the 1990 model, as it was a 1340cc 80 cubic inch air-cooled Evolution engine, and pretty much everything else was similar to the 90 model from what I can tell. Now, I believe there were 4 of these bikes used for the movie, and movies will use 1 or sometimes 2 quote-unquote hero bikes, and the rest of them for stunts. So for those of you who don't know what a hero bike is, it is a model that is used for close-ups and for the main character to use on film. It is kept in pristine condition, so it looks good on camera. And as I said in my last video, one of the hero Fatboys from this movie was sold at auction in 2018. It had less than 1,000 miles on it, and it was estimated to sell for about $200,000 to $300,000. It actually ended up going for $480,000. Now, the other models used will usually have the shit beat out of them. And anyone who is a fan of Smokey and the Bandit or the Dukes of Hazzard will know what I mean by that. The main motorcycle stunt the Fatboy was used for in Terminator 2 was the jump scene. And there's an interesting article from The Motorcyclist in May of 2018 where one of the stunt coordinators, Gary Davis, is interviewed about the famous jump. The jump was done at the speed of about 30 miles per hour, and the height of the jump was around 40 feet. The bike was suspended by 5 cables from 2 separate cranes. Obviously, you're not just going to jump a Fatboy 40 feet onto concrete without, something helping. The jump was done by Arnold's stunt double, Peter Kent, and it was done around 18 to 20 times with actually no injuries. As I said before, the movie only used 4 bikes, so it's surprising that they were able to do stunts like this and the bike still survived. Now, that does not mean they didn't sustain damage. We're talking about structural sustainability here. For the spillway jump, they managed to break off footboards and damage a number of cases. Terminator 2 Judgment Day opened to audiences worldwide on July 3rd, 1991, and made a worldwide gross of $520 million. That would amount to over $1.1 billion in today's money. It was the highest grossing movie of 1991, and I was eventually able to see it in the theater near the end of its run. The Fatboy was used heavily in the promotion of the film and heavily throughout. It is almost a character of its own. This made the Fatboy an iconic motorcycle, and in my opinion, it's only rivaled by the Captain America bike from Easy Rider. With the success of the movie, the Fatboy became a huge seller for Harley-Davidson. If you wanted this bike back around that time, you'd be sitting on a very long waiting list, waiting months, if not years, to get one. As I said before, this was the bike that got me into riding. I have watched this movie hundreds of times, and it is a very important part of my adolescence. I may never have begun riding in the first place if not for this movie. Or at least I would not have started at such a young age. I suspect this is the case for many a young man at this time. But this movie helped the Fatboy to become an icon in the motorcycle world, and it continues to be a model that has survived until today. Now, you can still buy a Fatboy. However, it is much different than the Fatboys of some 30 years ago. But that's it for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane. It sure brought up some nice memories for me. So I hope you folks get out there and you ride those Fatboys, and we will see you in the next one.